Hey y'all. So today I'm going to talk about hand pollinating when you have indoor plants. I have a mess in here. So overlook anything that you see. I was away for a week and my kids were taking care of the inside of here and they made a mess. Anyway, so hand pollinating. How do we pollinate indoors? If you look, I have some flowers going on here, so it's time. It's time to pollinate these flowers. If I want the fruit to set, then I'm going to have to do this by hand because typical pollinators like bees, flies, moths, ants, none of these are inside. Tomatoes are what we call self-fruiting. So, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. There's male and female flowers on most of your plants, but your male and female parts are contained in the same flower on a tomato. So, like squash and cucumbers, they need male and female flowers, but your tomatoes do not. You can use a paintbrush. This one's a little wider than I would like to use, but I could not find my other paintbrush, so this will have to do. Or you can use a handy dandy Q-tip. I feel a little bougie about it, and I like to use a paintbrush instead. I feel like the Q-tip might even be a better choice, but I just really like to use a paintbrush for whatever that reason is. It's a personal choice. But, so you can use a paintbrush or a Q-tip, and then you use it to gather pollen and share it from flower to flower. And if you look, you see the petals are growing back, and then you have some yellow here. You want to really get in there. You can tap your paintbrush on the end. You want to be not forceful, but you want to really get in there and press on them. It's better to do this with two hands so you can hold your flowers steady, but I can't do that right this minute. So you just want to brush the insides of your flowers, and you want to get every single one. Every single one has to have this done if you want the fruit to set. And here's an important thing. Like here on this table, I don't have any flowers yet. They're a little bit slower growing. These are Jubilee tomatoes. These are pink tomatoes. It's pink something, but I forget. This table is beef tomatoes. So, and then beefsteak tomatoes. And then this table is just a mystery table where I just had some extra space and planted some. And I actually didn't do a good job of marking them. I don't know what is going on here. I believe this is a beefsteak, but as far as the rest, I have no clue. So when you're doing this, right now I'm sticking to the pink table, my pink tomato table, and I'm going to try to get every single flower brushed so that pollen can get from flower to flower. See, tomatoes actually, and I lost one. That's why it's best to do it with two hands so that you can stabilize your flower while you're doing this. You don't want to, I'm actually not going to do any more until I can use both hands. But I have flowers on all of these, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to wash this paintbrush with rubbing alcohol and dry it very, very good before I move to my next variety. If you don't, then you're going to cross-pollinate, which means you will have some sort of hybrid of two different types of tomatoes, which is fine for me because I don't really care. But the main problem with that is if you want to save seeds, your seeds will no longer be pure. They'll be crossbred. So you want to, if you want to make sure, because every now and then a bug does get in here. I'm not going to do this in here because I feel pretty good about my bug situation, my pollinator situation. But if you have your plants outside, you can take a real soft mesh, so you'll pollinate by hand. If you want to save seeds, that's pure. pollinate by hand, and then wrap that one particular one in mesh, so, and tie something around it so that it can breathe, but no pollinators can get on that flower. And then you can mark it somehow. Put a little ribbon around the stem or something. Once the flower falls off, you can remove the mesh, and then you can mark that stem somehow, and at least that one tomato will be purebred, and you won't have to worry about your seeds not being pure anymore. So I'm going to finish up this table real quick, and then I'll move on to the next table, and then I'll show you this how to do the squash and the cucumbers. So I've done that. I've washed this with rubbing alcohol and then dried it off very good. It's not wet at all anymore. Well, maybe a little down at the bottom, but the tip is dry. And so I'm going to move on to the beefsteak tomatoes and get them done. But like I said, you want to hold the base of your flower and be just forceful enough to get some pollen on your brush. You're not going to see it from the tomatoes. It's very, very tiny particles. But hold your flower from the back while you do this, and don't be so forceful that you knock your flower off. It's not in a hurry thing that you want to do. You want to set aside some time to do this so that you can make sure that you're not beating your plants up and knocking your flowers off. Without flowers, there's no fruit. So be very, very careful. Okay, I've done all the tomatoes. Now we're going to talk about cucumbers. So once you see male and female flowers begin to open up on your cucumber plant, that means it is time to get pollinating. You can tell a female by the mini cucumber that's under the flower, just like this. You can see that little cucumber behind there, if you can see it. And you can tell a male because it does not have a cucumber behind it. It doesn't want to focus for me today, but there's no cucumber. You can tell when your plants start developing and you have the little cucumbers. Don't fear what's male and what's female. You will be able to tell. Those little bitty cucumbers, they start appearing almost immediately. Let me see if I can show you this one here on the tip. So right here, we have a tiny little cucumber, and it's one of the first things to start to develop is the tiny cucumber. You can't miss it. So don't worry. And this is a little different. It's not going to be the same as the tomatoes. What we're going to do is we're going to determine what flower is a male flower. And as of right now, I love the way the flowers look on the plant. So I'm going to specifically pick one from back here that's facing away from me, just because I don't mind that one's facing away from me. I'm not viewing it anyway. Yes, I know, weirdo. Anyway, so what you want to do is peel these petals back, and inside of a male flower, you have what's called a stamen. And the female flowers have what's called a pistil. So you want to pluck away the petals from the male flower so that the stamen is exposed. And usually the bees will do this. And if you don't know about the birds and the bees, go talk to your parents before watching the rest of this video, because this is basically the birds and the bees. This is a good way maybe to even explain to your children when that time comes how this stuff works. But anyway, so I'm going to peel this back. I need 2 hands to do it with. I think I figured out a way to do this where you can see it. So you basically just want to peel all of your petals off. And inside of here, you can see a little bitty pollen-filled stamen. I'm going to leave a little bit on there to hold on to it with. And that's what you'll have left. Just that little pointy piece. And I'm actually getting pollen all over my fingers and not leaving very much on the stamen itself. Okay. So then you find your female flowers that have opened. This is one in particular that needs to be pollinated right away. So basically you take this part, and if you look, there's like a little hole down in the middle of this flower. Let me see if I can. There's a little hole down in the middle of the flower, and you insert this into that hole and wiggle it around, and then you're done. And that's it. You just push this in there and kind of give it a little twist. Again, I'm not being super forceful. This is a love session, not a rough session. Don't knock your flowers off. Put it in there, twist it around, and boom, it should be fertilized. Now, I want to double ensure that that is fertilized. So I am also going to take my paintbrush and get a little pollen from here. And I'm going to put it in here too. This is much, much easier with a thinner paintbrush. This paintbrush is too thick for this, which is why I was trying to do the petal pull method. But anyway, you just go ahead and take a male flower, and one male flower can actually do a couple of females. So you go ahead and use one a couple of times, and then I would say do 2 or 3 maybe, and then get another male flower, because you don't want to run out of pollen on your male flower for your 3rd or 4th female flower. And this one's not quite ready yet. You have to watch them. This is a daily event right now while everything's blooming. You have to come out, watch. As soon as the flower opens, you will pollinate that flower with a male. As soon as the flower opens that has a mini cucumber on the back, you will instantly get a male and get it in there as quickly as you can. If you feel like you might not have done a great job, it will not hurt to pollinate the same ones again tomorrow or the next day. I don't believe there's any such thing as too much pollination. So I'll have to look into that. If there is, you need to look into that. Don't take that as my word. So we need to all check and see if there's a such thing as too much pollination. This is my first time doing this, y'all. So I am just learning as I go. And here we have my squash. Oh, I want to show you something. So what happens, I was on vacation last week, and things were ready to be pollinated on the squash and the zucchini, and it did not happen. This, by my standards and what I've been giving my plants as far as fertilizers, should not be blossom end rot. I've been doing all of the things properly to avoid blossom end rot on my plants. But if they're not properly pollinated, this will happen. It looks just like blossom end rot, and it's no bueno. We don't like it. You can't get fruit that way. The fruit doesn't set. So again, with the squash and the zucchini, you can use your paintbrush. I'm going to show you these. These 2 guys here, they were not pollinated by me. Unless a random bug got in here, and every now and then one does slip in, and I'm not sure how. I guess when I open the door to come in or something. There's actually a dragonfly flying around in here right now. So bugs do get in, and it is possible that they were pollinated, so I'm not going to pluck them until they start to look yucky on the ends. But I have one here. I have a couple that's ready that I didn't miss. This one here, the flower's curling up on itself, so I've almost missed it. But you want to find a male flower. A male flower has a straight stem, and there's no fruit at the end. This runs straight from stem to flower, and you can clearly tell that. So when you, let me see if I can find a little one to show you. Okay, so this is a female, and you can see how it runs straight from the stem to the fruit to the flower. There's a clear bulge here of fruit that you cannot miss on your females. This one here, I believe, may have gotten pollinated somehow. It actually took off before I left, and I didn't hand pollinate it, but like I said, a random bug probably did it. Anyway, this one's not ready the flower's not open, I'm not going to force that open. You never want to force your flowers open. Here's another good example. Right here. You can just tell, I mean, they instantly start fruiting, but they're not fertilized. Like this one here is ready and it has not been pollinated. So I am going to find a male flower. I'm going to take this one and just pluck it off, and then do just like the cucumbers. Let me put this paintbrush down. I'm going to do just like the cucumbers. You want to open this up gently and peel it back until you expose the stamen. And not like the cucumbers, this guy's proud of himself. So it's just covered in pollen. And what you want to do is gently open your female flower. This one, like I said, I almost missed it. You just want to gently open and expose the middle and push this in there and rub it around on the pistil, and boom, you've got it. Be careful, because I think I may have just, oh nope, it was zucchini. So I have to be real careful over here because I have squash, yellow squash and zucchini, and if I don't want to mix them, it looks like that might have already happened here with this yellow coming out in the back, but you don't want to cross pollinate your plants. You want zucchini of the same variety to pollinate zucchini of the same variety, even if you take it off the same plant. That's probably your best option anyway. But I only have one zucchini and one squash over here that is ready for pollination. And I'm just going to gently open and push this in there and make sure I'm rubbing it on the pollen from the stamen onto the pistil. Male to female, birds and the bees. So as of now, that one should be ready to pollinate in a couple of days. I don't have a lot of fruit ready to set on these, but they're just little, so I'm not disappointed with that at all. And then these leftovers here, you can give to your chickens if you have chickens. Some people stuff these flowers, by the way, with sausage and cream cheese and like Italian seasonings, and then they batter and deep fry these, and I hear they're amazing. But I'm not ready for that yet. I just want fruit. I just want squash. I don't want deep fried squash flowers right this minute. But that is how you do it. So if you have your plants indoors, you need to make sure that you become the pollinator. You have no idea if anything got in to pollinate your plants or not. So you have to be the pollinator. And that's how you do it. And like I said, this is my first time doing this indoors like this. I usually count on the bees and the bugs and the ants to pollinate my stuff, but this year it's me, and I hope that everything turns out. I imagine there's going to be some loss and some fails where I don't quite pollinate properly, but I'm going to give it my best, and according to the experts, that's how you do it. So I hope this helps y'all if you decide to do an indoor garden, and may you be fruitful.